Panther Nation, the C3 podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com.
I had fun, man. Just out, the guys joking. We working at the same time. Putting the work in as a team. Like I said, I'm just glad to be with the guys.
My favorite night of the week.
We're gonna go out there and we're playing to win. We're not out here just to show up. We're out here to win it.
I don't want guys that want to win, because really, who doesn't? Nobody wants to win. Everybody wants to win. I want players that hate to lose.
Well, this embodies everything that we are as a team, as an organization. Our motto is keep pounding. That's what we do. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, what's up, Panther fans? It's your boy, the Professor, a.k.a. Tony Dunn. It's the C3 podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. I do it with my homeboy, my best buddy of all time, going way back in the day, Joe Riolano. He's back this week in action. How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing much better than I have been over the last few weeks. I'm not 100%, but I'm getting there.
All right. Joe is always in a state of recovery, unfortunately.
Always.
But we're glad he's still kicking is the key.
That's right.
We also got a special guest tonight in Jared Fineberg at J-Rod Draft Scout. Jared writes for SnackTimeFantasy.com. He's here to talk to us about the draft. Jared, what's up, my man?
Nothing much, man. How you doing?
Fantastic. Thanks a lot for coming on the show tonight. We're going to get into some good news about, or not good news necessarily, but Kurt Coleman and Charles Johnson released as Carolina is making some early preparations for what begins this week in the NFL Combine. And then shortly after that, free agency is among us. So we'll be talking about all of that. Plus, we have Jared on to talk about the draft and how the Panthers are positioning in there, maybe some of the guys they're looking at and some of the things that are going on in that avenue. But until then, guys, we need you to do us a favor. We need you to smash that thumbs up button if you're watching on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, go ahead and hit that like button. We also we need you guys to share the show and subscribe on YouTube. YouTube has kind of made a new policy of not really helping channels that are under 1,000 subscribers. We're close. We are in the high 700s. So the goal is by the beginning of this season to be at that 1,000 mark so we can be in the YouTube cool club, right? Even though if you try to be cool, generally you're not, and we're trying pretty hard. So subscribe. Thanks for listening on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher if you're listening later. And guys, the Cat Calls line is live and in effect, or not live in effect, but it's always running. We'll have your calls at the end of the show. The number is 252-228-5098, where you can get your voice heard in Panther Nation. Guys, let's just go ahead and jump into the show, as Phil DeFranco would say. And that is the big news this week was that Kurt Coleman and Charles Johnson were released. This happened yesterday in an effort that immediately clears up $6 million in cap room. There is some questions about if the Coleman release, when the designation date will be set, could be more. I think we all knew CJ's time was a-coming. His production has been waning for the last several years, but he's been a veteran guy that they've liked to have, they've felt comfortable with, but his time is gone on. I think Kurt Coleman was a big surprise for me. Joe, how do you feel about these moves? Just initial reactions.
I think CJ was, for most people, not a surprise. I think he knew it was his last year, and he wanted to go out with a bang, so he took some PEDs to try and, have a really productive final season. Didn't work out. So, that's the way it goes. Kurt Coleman was much more of a surprise, in particular because how inexperienced we are back there, and how really honestly how shallow we were. There was a real lack of depth. I mean, there were some people back there, but you're talking about, you know, not somebody you want starting on your NFL secondary.
Yeah.
So that was a surprise. I think this is somewhat indicative of a blueprint that the front office must have as what the plan, as far as what the plan is for draft and free agency.
Jared, Joe brings up a point that that we have kind of harped upon in this show for the last couple of years, and that is how thin we've been at safety. And even when we had a pairing that seemed like it was going to work, as in Kurt Coleman coming off the 2015 season or moving back to free safety after the 2016 season, the real concern is that there was nobody behind him, or Mike Adams, if he didn't work out, or previous to that. Don't even remember after Roman Harper what we did. Maybe Trey Boston was the segue there. But how does a team move on like this? What are your thoughts on Coleman initially, should I say?
Coleman, it's just weird for me to think that Kurt Coleman is now no longer a Panther. And I believe, he was a cap casualty for a reason. I think we're attempting to to re-sign Andrew Norwell or potentially franchise tag him. I don't think we will franchise tag him because that'll just eat up all of our cap space. And Kurt Coleman, I honestly was shocked when Kurt Coleman was released. I'm still trying to
grapple
figure out
with it.
Why.
Yeah.
He was one of my favorite players on the team. The flex on him, some of my teammates do it. When they make a tackle or something like that. But I think Kurt Coleman, he was sort of like a flaw in Steve Wilkes' defense. We just blitzed the crap out of everyone, almost every play. And if someone was going to get burned, it was probably going to be the safeties because you were sending one safety on a blitz or a corner or a nickelback blitzing down. And I think that just took a toll on Coleman, and they used him as probably this is a guy that might be declining. We're not sure, but we're just going to have to make a business decision here and just have to cut him.
Yeah, I feel like he was in some ways, is that I get the sentiment of people saying that there could be a decline in his play, right? Is that as he enters, I think he's going to be turning 31 this season. You could see this. There is an argument that could be on the horizon, but I feel like he's kind of a victim of circumstance, like you're saying, to a degree. There were some plays that he did not necessarily have. There was what I wanted to write when I wrote about this yesterday, and the plays he did miss, kind of the optics on them were not good. And what I mean by that is, at safety, whenever you get when there's a problem at free safety, it's a disaster. It's not like you make a bad play and it's a 7-yard gain.
The free safety is literally your last line of defense. If you have that, and this is why we need to go young at safety. We need a young, talented safety back there, and someone who can cover one-on-one as well downfield when the corner just got burnt, and then you're the last line of defense. You got to go and get after the ball.
And I think there was added pressure put on him too because, James Bradbury didn't have his best season. We saw him, at least some people thought that he didn't improve as much as they had hoped. he would do in this year, as well as is that, you know, there was a lot of question marks on the other side of the field. It's not like we had a great group of dudes back there in the secondary, and Coleman was the weak link. I think that one of the things too that hurt him is that his play probably didn't get better as the season went on. You know, he suffered a knee injury where he missed 4 games, and then after that, he didn't like come back with a fury. You actually saw Mike Adams get better as the season went on, who had, I thought, was a poor start to the season and a stronger finish, which is surprising for his age. So, you know, like, I think there's that factor. But to go back to what Joey was saying, in a way, when Kurt Coleman was lost for those 4 games, we were not feeling good. You know, it was not like, we got this.
That's been the case for years.
Right.
We felt like we were shallow at safety. And even with what's his name, number 42? I can't think of his name on top of my head.
Is it Colin Jones? Because right now we're down to Colin Jones, Jarris Byrd, and Mike Adams.
Right, and that's scary. That is a scary thought. So, I think that, you know, his production had slipped. You know, injury was a problem for him this year. I think it's a lot of things. The financial side of it, saving some money on his deal. It was definitely more than just one particular thing. I think it was just several things factored into the decision. And frankly, I think the team thinks they can get better at the position, perhaps younger at the position.
Certainly. Here's Marty Hurney from WFNZ today on the release.
Yeah, I mean, this is a hard time of year, and it's funny because I always used to cringe, and a lot of times coaches this time of year would always tell players, well, it's a sorry cap decision. It's a sorry cap decision. It's really a personnel decision, Kyle, in the fact that in an effort to move forward, what you want to do is, and a lot of times, just like yesterday, they are extremely hard decisions. But when you make moves with older guys, you clear room for other guys to get more reps and to develop and to improve individually and hopefully as a football team. So that's what this time of year is about, is trying to make those moves, those global moves that are very hard, but also give other guys on your roster, guys that aren't on your roster yet, time to get the additional reps and improve as players and hopefully improve as a football team.
All right, so there's Marty. I think that first, Marty Hurney, I think that a comment applies a little bit easier to Charles Johnson than it maybe does to Kurt Coleman, and is that, you know, this organization, or at least this coaching staff, has always seemed to be reluctant to put the young guys in and have them learn on the ropes unless they absolutely have to, and the general manager puts them in a position to do that, vis-a-vis when you cut Steve Smith and you have no wide receivers, or vis-a-vis when you release Josh Norman or rescind the tag and then have to trot out all rookie corners. That was not a coaching decision, but a coaching, like, a requirement. You know, this again forces the Carolina Panthers to do that. And I think that, hey, with these types of holes, particularly at safety now, you're going to have to get aggressive both in free agency and the NFL draft. I expect the Panthers to go after a safety in free agency as well as at one of the draft. The good news about that is that the safety position is one of the cheaper positions in free agency. The bad news is it's not like there's a lot of gems out there. No. Right now, I mean, you're down to Kenny Vaccaro is the top name, and he's not proven.
A name I'm interested in is Eric Reed from San Francisco.
I admit that I am as well. I found that intriguing That, if you recall, Tony, that is the guy that went head to head with Mike Tolbert.
Oh, and Mike Tolbert tried to kill?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm actually intrigued by him. When I saw his name on that list, I thought, that might be a potential player for us.
Jared, why do you like Eric Reed?
Well, he struggled in the 49ers defense past couple years. I think it's just the way the defense is schemed. Earlier in his career, he started off great and was one of the best young safeties in the league. And I think he still has that potential of being one of those big time safeties. I think it's just he needs to be in the right system. And I think the system that Eric Washington is going to bring in, since Wilkes is gone, we're not going to be blitzing as much. And I think it's a system that Eric Reed would be much comfortable with. And also another player that we could also bring back, we could bring back Trey Boston. I mean, he just signed with a new agent in Charlotte. Some of us were thinking maybe he might re-sign with Carolina. I think there's a good chance we could end up re-signing Trey Boston. I think Trey Boston, like, they didn't get off the right page, and I think because of like the way Dave Gettleman ran things, I think when they cut him back in what was it, like last June, he, like, it just didn't go well. He did play well for San Diego this year. He was one of their best.
Yeah, I think he made the Pro Bowl.
I wonder. I'm not sure if he did or not.
I think he did.
He did?
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah, maybe not.
I'm not excited about that name. I am not excited about the Trey Boston.
I'm not excited either, but I will say this.
He would know what he's getting into.
Yeah.
He did have a pretty good year. And I think he would come on the cheap.
I think we'll sign him for cheap. Like it'd be maybe like a 1-year deal.
Yeah, like a prove-it deal. And
he's 25 years old. I mean, he's still got.
He's young. He's young. We would definitely, if he was to come, we would be younger at the position. I don't know if we'd be better, but we'd be younger, and he could come in and maybe show us he's worth signing to a 4-year deal, 3 or 4 year deal.
Mm-hmm. Let me see. I'm just gonna give you the names. I think that. Let me see. I looked them up, and actually, I should check the chat room because these guys know what more than anything. Reed is there. A lot of people are talking about potentially his brother Jordan Reed in the draft. So we'll get to the draft in just a second. Mm-hmm. Here are the names in. If you're looking at safety, the names right now.
Wasn't there Lamar Joyner?
I have the names up right here.
LaMarcus Joyner. Yeah, he's gonna get tagged, I think.
Game Vaccaro, Morgan Burnett, Eric Reed, Trey Boston, Kirk Coleman. Well, we're not going to bring Kirk Coleman back.
Right.
Quentin Demps, Tavon Branch, Ron Parker, Tavon Wilson. Reggie Nelson's a free agent, though he's like 34 years old. I don't think we're going to bring in older talent.
Yeah.
TJ Ward is a free agent, and it just baffles me that
I wanted him last year.
He used to be one of the top safeties in the league, and now he's 31 years old. He's coming off a real bad season in Tampa Bay. I think he played great in Wade Phillips' defense, but I think they just wanted to go younger. And
something was going on with the coaching staff. I mean, first of all, their defense was a mess. Let's go ahead and just be clear about that. Is that you got 36-year-old Grimes, Miko's husband, that is the standout dude in that defense. But TJ Ward looked bad, right? So, or at least there was a lot of blown plays. He was very I won't say, I don't want to criticize somebody for mouthiness because, like, who knows really what is being said and things. But at least you heard him you heard a couple of stories about him being disgruntled with his role. I think you might as well keep Jarris Byrd at this point if that's where you're going. But I did see, I think it was Rappaport, or who's the other one that's like all over every move? Yeah, and one of them said that that TJ Ward, he would potentially command a good bit of money in this free agency still, despite the problems he had. There's Marcus Gilchrist is up there. Mm-hmm. You know, there's really not a lot of sexy names.
What about Demps? What about Demps?
I don't know anything about him.
Demps is 32. He used to be a solid safety.
Yeah, that's too long.
Years ago, and then he's
like, you want to get younger.
All over the place. And now,
well, you're going to have to do two things. Like, we do want to get younger, and that's where you're going to go in the draft. The question is, what's easier for a guy to do, to step in at free safety or strong safety straight out of college? I did also see one other suggestion about tagging Norwell and trading him to the Giants for Landon Collins. Now, it was kind of like a pipe dream, but awesome sounding to me. I said, sign me up.
Dream a little dream.
Yeah. I've seen on Twitter that some people want Daryl Worley to move to safety. I'd love to see how that would work out, but I think honestly, when you're looking at our corners, James Bradbury and Daryl Worley, and also Kevon Seymour, I think they have maybe another year, or actually this could be the year they actually like click, and James Bradbury all of a sudden turns into the next Xavier Rhodes, and Daryl Worley turns into, I don't know, a solid good corner. Because the way I look at it, James Bradbury is literally on the same path as Xavier Rhodes was. Rhodes started off his career slow. He wasn't really the starter, like the main guy, like a top dog like he is now. It took him a couple years to adjust to the NFL. I think that's what's going on with James Bradbury, and I think next year he takes that next step into becoming a good corner in this football league. I have full belief in James Bradbury and becoming a Pro Bowler in his career with the Carolina Panthers. I hope he is a Carolina Panther for life. Same thing with Daryl Worley. Even though what other people say about Worley, sort of don't agree with. I think Worley still has a lot to learn. He's still young. I mean, Bradbury is young too, but I think he's returning.
He's ahead of Worley, clearly.
I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced on Worley, but it's kind of like the same thing. People are talking is that with Worley, I was so hard on him in the beginning that like I almost feel sorry that like I gotta ease up a little bit. The reason I was hard on him is that, well, I think the Panthers put too much pressure on those guys. Thought it was a bad plan to but we're really in a similar spot in some ways as we were that year, is that by letting go of Kurt Coleman, you're making this an issue that has to be addressed. There's no more patchwork. That's the good news, though. It's good and bad. Like, we have patchworked this position group for, I want to say, like a decade. I mean, I don't know if we've really done anything at safety.
When was the last time we had a good corner? Chris Gamble?
A good corner.
Josh Norman.
And Josh Norman. But a good corner for, like, we've had, like, a corner on our team consistently good for years. Norman was like, he got it together, like, in 2015. And then, of course, that whole thing that went down that offseason.
I think it goes back even further for safety, though. Like, I mean, I'm talking I don't know if we've had a solution, a real starter since Mike Minter.
Right.
You know what I mean? He was awesome, but that was also like 15 years ago.
Right.
And on top of that, I think we did have Godfrey was one guy that was he was all right, I thought, but not an answer, not the answer. And Colin Jones is certainly not the answer, folks.
No.
Well, Mike Mitchell, if he would have stayed on our team, I think he could have ended up being a Mike Minter kind of guy.
Which he might be. Speaking of, I wonder what...
Isn't he a free agent?
I'm gonna look up his contract right now. Mike Mitchell, because
might have 1 year left.
I loved him as a Panther.
Yeah,
I really would.
He gambled a little bit. 2018,
yeah,
they could clear $5 million in cap space.
Whoa!
If they cut him,
and that would go towards Bell.
That would help.
I think Mike Mitchell might end up being a free agent over the next couple of days, because he could be a cap casualty.
He was a thumper, and that's what I liked about him.
And he wasn't loved in Pittsburgh, though. You know what I mean? Right. They kind of liked him a little bit, but not in love with him.
Carolina, he was loved.
Where he tried to hurt players or something like that. I mean, he was doing the same thing at Carolina, honestly, but he was just such a good player for us. I'd love to bring Mike Mitchell back. That would bring just a fiery feeling in our second.
The attitude.
I like that. I think that you do that. You put him at you bring him back. You could do that. That gives you a veteran presence, like a guy who's been around, who also doesn't feel like he's owed something.
Yeah. I'm also
because he struggled early in his career, and then to fit in Oakland, he gets in a good situation here. He gets paid in Pittsburgh, so he has to prove that he still can, that he's a good player still. I don't know what his age is though.
He's not older than 30.
No,
but I think he was 25 when he left Carolina.
He's 30. He's 30 on the dot.
He's 30.
He'll be 31.
Yeah, he's age 30.
June. But that's not terrible.
No,
that's right at the edge, I would say, of how old we want to be. We don't want any older than that.
Have maybe 2 or 3 years left in the tank, and then he'd just start dropping.
All right.
I'm still here for,
Could you tell us, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, so you go ahead and finish that thought and then move on to what options there are potentially in the draft concerning free and strong safety.
Looking at free safety, I think the best overall safety is, of course, Minkah Fitzpatrick, who can play free safety, strong safety,
cornerback,
corner.
Yeah, he can do it all.
But he's not going to be at 24.
He'll be way gone.
Not going to drop unless he does something bad during the combine.
He'll be way gone.
He'll be gone. Derwin James is a top 15 player for me. He is my 13th overall ranked player on my draft board. He was hyped to be the best safety in the draft and one of the best players in the draft overall. He sort of struggled. He was still trying to get his feeling and his feel back since coming off a leg injury in 2016. But looking back at his freshman tape, including some of his best games this year and from 2016, Derwin James I think he could end up going to the top 10. So just take Derwin James out of that. But unless some other teams are kind of worried about his leg still. Another player I am high on, much higher on than others, is Texas safety Deshaun Elliott. Elliott is a ball hawk. He had 6 interceptions last year for Texas, led the team. He's got great range. He can cover well deep downfield. There were times last year where he did get burned. I see a little bit of Kirk Coleman and Deshaun Elliott, like a younger version of Kirk Coleman if he were still playing at the level he was in 2015. I think Elliott would be the number one option to get at 24 if like guys like Calvin Ridley, Harold Landry, maybe Isaiah Wynn from Georgia, the guard, who could end up replacing Norwell if he leaves. I currently have Elliott mocked to the Panthers at 24. I'm not sure if you've seen it yet. One of you guys has seen my last mock draft. But Elliott, like some people say he can't run, he can't cover, he's not that good. Someone had him with a 6th round grade. I'm like, where in the world did you get that from? Like, he was seeing something else I wasn't seeing. But I have Elliott as a top 25 player in this draft and with a 1st round grade.
WalterFootball.com has him ranked as the number 6 overall safety and projected in the somewhere in the 2nd to 4th round. Citing that his speed and athleticism is not high enough to just jump off to be. That's their rationale.
That's his.
I don't.
What about Ronnie Harrison though?
Ronnie Harrison.
Safety, Alabama.
Yeah.
He's a big
Harrison,
boy, 6'3", 215.
The dude can hit. Like he'll knock you out. Like you throw the ball over the middle of the field, and you have to secure the catch if you're going to get hit by Harrison because he'll just rock your world. I mean, he is a hitter. I do have a 1st round grade on Harrison. He is my 29th overall prospect. Let me see the notes I have on him real quick.
So you would rather take Elliott over him?
I want a ball. Well, here's the thing. I don't. From what
Elliott's only a junior too, I believe.
The evaluation I had on Elliott was he's a solid tackler, plays well in zone, and can play man too. He can cover the tight end well. He can cover running backs well as well. He has great ball skills, always near the ball, and has great instincts. That's the evaluation I had on him.
Okay.
For Harrison, the notes I have on him, he's a big physical safety that can quickly diagnose plays and close on the ball. The player comparison I gave to Harrison was Cam Chancellor. And then the player comparison for Elliott I have is Earl Thomas.
God,
Dang.
Yeah.
That sounds terrible. Both of those names. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I have to admit, given the choice, I would probably go Earl Thomas too, if you stay healthy.
No, when you say Elliott, you mean you would rather have Earl Thomas over Cam Chancellor?
Right.
Okay.
Of course, I would. For me, I'd always have Earl Thomas ahead of Cam Chancellor.
Yeah.
Every time. No matter what.
Here's a little thinking outside the box from Slim J in the chat room. As he said, package of trades and the Honey Badger. Go after the Honey Badger.
That might not be.
I heard something. He is a possible trade candidate. I haven't really heard much about him being cut or anything.
What's his real name? I always forget it. We just call him the Honey Badger. What's his name, Joe?
Tyrann Mathieu.
Tyrann
Mathieu,
yeah.
I'm gonna look up his contract. I remember his contract being like a big one.
He had a big ass contract.
Can't
that is an interesting idea, but I think he's another one that seems to get bit by the injury bug every year.
Yeah, he does.
In some form or another.
There's some. I'm looking at some safeties for like the second round, maybe the third. These guys might not be there, but just a possibility. Justin Reed, who is the younger brother of Eric Reed.
Yep.
Did he play at LSU?
Justin Reed, he's from Stanford.
Okay.
And then right under him I have Jesse Bates from Wake Forest. I ended up watching some of his film last night, and his closing speed is just insane. Like as soon as he sees the ball, he is going. Like, he is quick. And also, he can be a solid punt returner for us. But, I mean, we have McCaffrey for that. But still, you'd love to have a defensive back that can also be a returner on special teams. Another guy I'm looking at is who's been on the rise as of late, Jeremy Reeves from South Alabama. Has great man cover skills and reactionary quickness in the midst of route recognition. Possesses sideline range, fluid athleticism to fly all over the field. Ball skills are off the charts. Reeves used to be a cornerback, so that's why he is a really good man-covered corner. Then there's the safety out of Tennessee. He was their best defensive player last year. Tennessee was just awful last year. Rashawn Golden. I haven't really gotten the chance to look at him, but from what I'm seeing on my Twitter timeline, like, he is hyped. He's getting hyped to be like a top 50 player, like talent-wise in this draft.
I looked up Tyrann Matthews, just a honey badger, whatever the damn name is. It's like spelled funny. Everything is spelled funny with him.
Mm-hmm.
His name is spelled Tyrann. So Tyrann and
Tyrann. It's Tyrann Matthew.
And it's Mathieu, right? Mm-hmm. So the honey badger, the dang honey badger, is going to count $14 million against their cap, guys.
So, how many games did he play last year?
Nope.
If they cut him, he would be $9.3 million. They would have $9.3 million in dead money. So I do think if you were going to trade for him, they would have to eat some of that roster bonus, because the way his salary is built, his salary is 5.7 on the season. His guaranteed money is prorated $3.1 million over his contract. So he's really an $8 million player, and then there's this $5 million roster bonus. I'm not sure why that's there at that point, but it is there. And he is... It says this. Oh, actually, no, this might not be if he was on the trade. It says this: if Matthew was on the roster on the first day of the 2018 league year, he will get a $5 million bonus and guarantee his 2018 salary of $8 million of his 2019 salary. So they just might have to suck it up and eat a bunch of money, or a trade could be. I don't know what a trade would do with a roster bonus.
I think trade would eat all of our cap space. We'd have no money left. Like, the only money we'd have left is for draft picks, because we do have money saved. We do have like a certain amount of money saved up for our draft picks.
And there's still room to be cleared up. There's still a good chance that Jonathan Stewart is going to be an odd man out. We'll see there. Let's jump to one other quick question before we get back to the draft, or one quick issue, and here's Marty Hurney on the tag situation, because you mentioned earlier that Jared mentioned earlier doesn't really suspect or expect the Panthers to use the tag because of how much it would cost on the salary cap. And here is Marty Hurney addressing that on the radio today.
Well, I think, number one, it's too early to say whether we would or not, because it is fluid. I think that when you're saying the franchise tag, again, I think it comes into a bigger picture of where you want diversity in amongst your positions, skill set wise, and you have to make sure that not all your money goes to one position. You do have to spread it around the other positions.
Learn that the hard way.
You have that blueprint, both design wise and what you're going to do, how you're going to win football teams, but also how you build your team, and that includes draft choices. It includes economics. So I think that each case on the franchise tag is different. When you make a decision whether you can re-sign somebody or not, it's not always just about that one person, that one individual. It's about a bigger picture and overall blueprint. After this,
all right. So what he is saying there, first of all, is that it's addressing two players, and the same issue applies to both players. It applies to Andrew Norwell as well as Starr, and that is that you signed Trey Turner to a big deal last year, I believe, or I think it was at the end of the 2016 season going into 2017. You also have KK, who has been doing this, or actually has got the big deal. So Starr, and you've been drafting in preparation for this in many ways. You drafted Vernon Butler. At some point, you're just going to have to say you got to stay healthy and go after it. And as well as I think he's suggesting both of those positions, locking up that much money would handicap you at other positions that he is trying to upgrade, and that he, I think, knows that he's going to have to aggressively pursue. We haven't talked about potentially the money that's going to have to be spent. You're going to have to go and get a wide receiver, and the answer at wide receiver, in my opinion, is not in the draft. Not that you don't draft a wide receiver, but to expect a wide receiver to come in, it's going to be hard for a 24 pick. I mean, if you got that at 24, you look at the names over the past few years who were drafted in the late first round, and rarely do you find a guy that is an immediate contributor or that has blown you away. I think the last name, and I am not a draft guru, but the last name I remember going, that's a guy that was the steal, was Allen Robinson, second round pick. But you think of going back for us, East Carolina fan here, and that, and now the name is going to escape me, not Justin Hardy, but Joe. Help me
plays for the Bills.
Plays for the Bills.
Breyer?
No.
I don't know.
Why am I just we picked him right. They picked him right before we picked Curtis Samuels, and he has the most catches. His dad played for the Cowboys, and somebody.
Isn't it Zeke something? No.
Hold on. Somebody's gonna help me. Is Bills #1 draft pick? Why? This is embarrassing. Bills #1.
Oh God, I can't believe we can't think of it.
I know. Is that? Come on. What's this guy? I can't even remember. This is ridiculous. Zay Jones. Thank you. Good.
Hey, I knew it started with the D. I knew it.
Thank you. Jesus. That one's my bad on that. So Zay Jones, even with that, he had a lot of trouble acclimating to the NFL, I feel. Mm-hmm. And so, it's a big ask on a receiver, I think, or on any position, to come in and contribute from day one. If you're not a top 10 talent, that's difficult.
I'm looking at the chat. I think some of the guys are saying Zay Jones.
Yep. he caught up. We caught up with the chat room. They're always ahead of us. All right, so let's let's see. Let's move on to this. Is that ultimately we know that there's a lot of needs, and I feel like, and this is what Hurney said the goal is. Here is the last clip I got from
after
Hurney.
the season, and I thought both offensively and defensively, we needed to add speed, we needed to add athleticism. So that's what we're looking to do in the next few months. But we have a rare talent in Cam Newton. We have to give him weapons around him to help him, help increase his production, and to really give us more options offensively.
Rare talent Cam Newton needs some help. That resonates with every Panthers fan. We love to hear that. So, Jared, how do we do that through this NFL draft? Or how do we do that, period?
Honestly, I just hope and pray we get someone good. Right now, I have my own Panthers draft board that I've created on a Google spreadsheet. Calvin Ridley is, of course, my top receiver, and really the only receiver that I could see going into being selected in the first round. Another guy I am looking at that we could take in the first round, who I do think has first round talent, but will end up being selected in the second round, is DJ Moore out of Maryland. He is a vertical threat, solid hands. I think he's going to test well in terms of 40 time. He will run good routes, all that. I do think he ran a limited route tree at Maryland, and that's something that will probably come up when scouting him. I've done my full evaluation on DJ Moore. I have him as my number 3 overall receiver. And the notes I have for him, untouchable when he gets into his second gear, and he is very dangerous in open space. I can remember watching one Maryland game this year, and he caught, I think he caught a screen or a flat, I'm not sure. Just broke one tackle, broke another, broke a third, broke a fourth, and then he was gone. He was heading to the house. I mean, Moore has that big play ability that I think Carolina's looking for at wide receiver. Another receiver that a lot of fans know is James Washington from Oklahoma State. Great hands. Route running was a concern because of the offense he played in. He did show at the Senior Bowl that he can run any route really well. His build looks like a running back when you first look at him, but he plays like he's a 6'5" receiver. He's got great catch radius, and also he's got that big playmaking ability that the Panthers are looking for. Another guy that I'd love to get, but also a little iffy on, is Christian Kirk from Texas A&M. He's a good route. He's a solid route runner. He burns the crap out of defenses. The hands, I feel like he's got tech in hands, so I'm
don't like that. No, don't like that sound. You scared me away with that.
I'm sort of backing away from wanting Christian Kirk, but he's got that playmaking ability that we're looking for at that position. A couple other guys I'm just going to throw out there on tape from FSU. He reminds me of he's like a faster, quicker version of Alden Tate. He's got the same size, or Devin Funchess. Tate has the same size as Funchess. And also Cortland Sutton, who's being hyped to be a top receiver in this draft. I don't think he is, honestly.
Who? But Cortland Sutton, SMU?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Cortland Sutton is my 9th ranked overall receiver.
Wow.
I think, but he could end up being a top 5 receiver for me after the combine.
You got to see what he does on how fast he is, really, right?
The only thing I'm worried about is his speed. Can he? There's so many. He was very inconsistent last season, and that was a big concern for me. Entering the season, he was my number 2 overall receiver. just behind Calvin Ridley. Like, it was a really tight space between those two in terms of like preliminary grades or whatever. But yeah, Sutton, I'd love to get him, but I feel like that's just another like big receiver that we really don't.
You don't want to duplicate talent too much. It's been a problem for the Carolina Panthers, which is funny because, or not funny, but Marty Hurney has mentioned a diversity of talent and diversity of skill set, and that's something that I've been preaching on this podcast over the last couple of years. Is that you gotta be able to have guys that can do different things and do different things well. So you'll be watching that. And of course in the YouTube chat room, these guys. They, like Tin Tizzy said, the YouTube chat room runs this show, which is true, is that Cody Lashney says that he agrees that Sutton does not create a lot of separation at all. And
I'm seeing Sutton is Kelvin Benjamin, and I'm seeing Devin Funchess.
Right. I think I saw that Cody Lashney he said he's going to die on the Sammy Watkins Hill, and that's the guy. Is that there's also people have mentioned Martavius Bryant and a lot of names at wide receiver, and I saw Chad mentioned that the answer is not wide receiver in the first round. So let's take Chad's word for that. If wide receiver is not the answer in the first round, where do you have the Panthers? Where do you want them to go at that 24 pick, Jared?
Ooh, honestly, I haven't thought about that. I've mocked a receiver and a safety to Carolina at 24. It's really a crapshoot who the hell we're going to take at 24. We could end up taking a guard. We could end up taking, of course, a wide receiver, a safety. We could even go corner. We could go pass rusher if the guy that we want is available. And we could end up pulling a Dave Gettleman and end up drafting a defensive lineman, one of those hog mollies. We could end up pulling a 2015 move when we took Shaq Thompson when we had A.J. Klein.
I think Hurney's going to go sexy, man. I think Hurney has got something in mind in free agency and
running back, one of those kind of positions.
Well, I don't know if maybe in the first round I could see like, hey, let's commit to the offensive line. There's a lot of different things. You know, Hurney's good in the first round, but he's used to picking a lot higher too. We haven't seen him pick this late in a while. I can't remember, you know. But so I feel good about Hurney in the draft. Where I think Hurney's going to try to make some noises in free agency.
Definitely. Hopefully he doesn't sign a guy to like a 5-year
giant deal. Yeah.
Well, just got worried about money. I mean, we don't want to sign the one guy to eat up, 60% of our cap space.
Right.
Yeah. There's one running back I do like, and a lot of Panther fans like, in the second or third round, and that is Nick Chubb.
Everybody loves Nick Chubb, dude.
Yeah.
I can remember his freshman year. He probably had, honestly, a better burst of speed than Saquon Barkley did. And then he ended up tearing up his knee the next season, sophomore year, when he was on pace for a monster season, like a Heisman Trophy season. And then the next year he comes back. He's still trying to get it together. He had one game last year or 2 seasons ago. His first game back, he ran for 200 yards. And I think it was against the Tar Heels. It looked like he was back to being the Nick Chubb we thought he was, and it just fell apart. And then finally this year, Chubb, he did show that burst he had in his freshman year, but he ran hard like Jonathan Stewart did. Of course, I think the better back in that backfield last year was Sony Michel, and Sony Michel is my third-ranked running back in this draft class. There's no way we're getting him, honestly, because he's not the type of guy we need running behind McCaffrey. We need a guy that can just be an absolute bruiser like Nick Chubb.
Nick Chubb missed half of the 2015 season. He also had to run with Todd Gurley at one point, and he had 4,700 yards rushing. He averaged, through his career, the lowest year that he averaged 5 yards a carry. That was in 2016. That was coming off the ACL.
Mind-boggling, and yet there's more talented running backs ahead of him. Like, let's see, Darius Guy. I have Sonny Michel ahead of him. Ronald Jones from USC. I have Mark Walton from Miami, who was injured like halfway through the season. I have him ranked over Chubb. Of course, I have Barkley as the number 1 back. There's one other back that I think would also be another Jonathan Stewart, or actually 2 guys, for instance. Josh Adams from Notre Dame and Bo Scarborough from Alabama. Scarborough, he's a big, tall running back, and he can scoot. When he gets in open space, look out, because he's probably going to run you over trying to get to the end zone. And I haven't really watched much of Adams, but like when he hits the second gear, he's gone.
I think Sony Michel, I think he runs a little high.
He does.
I mean, he's a taller guy, so that's always and
he's a better receiver, and I think a better pass protector.
I don't know. I'm not going to sleep on Chubb. I'm not going to go far as Slim J, who said that Nick Chubb was better than Todd Gurley before he got hurt. No way. But, I mean, he did come in and just destroy it as a freshman. But you're going after my guy with Gurley. I'm a Gurley man. He played high school football.
I was a Gurley guy
right down the road.
Drafted.
Yeah.
Todd Gurley, entering the draft, he got comparisons of Adrian Peterson and all that. I think we could have seen a duo like we did last season with Sonny Michel and Nick Chubb, with Todd Gurley and Nick Chubb. But it probably would have been for that one season, but who knows? I mean, what could have happened?
Yeah. All right. So a lot of things to be thinking about going into this draft. We are at the 10 o'clock mark, so we're going to move on to the cat calls real quick, because these guys got some draft suggestions for us. I know that, and we'll get all of our reactions as we go. But here we go.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty. You shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like.
Who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in his nose? Who's that kid that can use one?
Tony Dunn, Mel Mayock, and that freaking Puerto Rican Joe Riolano, and to whoever else might be blessing the podcast with their presence tonight. What's up, boys? My name is Cody Lashney, and it's time for this week's edition of Better Know a Potential Panthers Draft Pick. Now, from here on out, what I'm going to do, which is going to be different than what I've been doing, is I'm going to be looking at guys that I think we could potentially target in the first round.
Oh, that's last week's call, isn't it?
We're going to be taking the season with 27 passes defended and 8 interceptions. He had a
Hold on.
defended 7 passes with screen.
You guys have to muscle through it.
With 27 passes defended and 8 interceptions. He had a 41.3% completion rate on a 25.7% of his targets. He is 6'1", 192 pounds, and he is a ball hawk. He is everything that you want at the cornerback position, and I personally believe that he has the potential to be a day one starter in our very own Marshawn Lattimore, like the Saints got last season. I don't want to hear any more about Daryl Worley.
That was Joshua Jackson.
About Kayvon Seymour. They're not the answer at the position. You have to bring in guys to compete at the position. And our backfield has been by far the biggest weakness on our defense.
I know why. No wonder why the problem is, guys. You got to load the right calls, dude. That usually helps. All right, so while I pull those up, could you tell us what your thoughts are on Josh Jackson?
Me?
Yeah.
Josh Jackson. I have him and Denzel Ward with the same grade. Both, I think, are tied for the top cornerback spot, but I think, real quick, Denzel Ward, I think he might end up being the top corner entering the draft overall, with a monster performance this weekend and at the Combine. But Josh Jackson, I love this guy, man. If he were somehow to drop to 24, I don't think there would be a single hesitation to go up and grab him. We could, and that could be a scenario where we might end up moving Daryl Worley to safety. But Josh Jackson, I think he can come in day one and start for an NFL team, and he can go out and just grab a whole bunch of interceptions. I say his rookie year, he's going to have 5-6 interceptions. I will regret saying this if he does end up becoming a bust, but that's what I believe. Now.
Yeah, man, I think that Cody Lashney, he just certainly knows what he's talking about, and he's high on. Ryan Moore says there is a potential there could be a QB run, and I know before the show you mentioned that this being a important year for quarterbacks and that they could fall. I do have the calls loaded up, so here we go.
So what are your thoughts on Cack?
What's up, boys? Cody Lashley from the YouTube chat, and before we jump into our normal segment that we get into every Tuesday, I want to speak a little bit about the recent cuts, and I'm torn, because out of all the people that we should have cut, Kurt Coleman was not on my list. I did not see him as such a liability in 2017 that he needed to be the one to go. If anything, I thought that was Mike Adams, who was a little more of a liability, but Kurt did not play this past year like he did in years past. I also want to say that it's important to remember how integral Kurt Coleman was in our 2015 run. He was an absolute ball hawk, and I mean, he was one of the reasons why our front seven was able to play so fast. It's because of him and Josh Norman. They balled out, and I don't want all of his work to go forgotten about. He's been a stalwart for the Panthers, and listen, man, I gotta say, if we're gonna be making these types of cuts, we damn well be getting ready to pay Andrew Norwell. I'm sorry, I'm not one of the guys that adheres to the philosophy of you don't tie that much money into guards, because there's nothing more important in the NFL than having your quarterback standing upright and running the football. I don't care if you have to sink that much money into two guards. To say that it's not worth it, I don't. It's borderline asinine to me. I don't understand that. Cam Newton has to have time to beat Cam Newton. I mean, there's no other ifs, ands, or buts about it. So if we're going to make these cuts, I want Andrew Norwell on our team. There are guys that we could pinpoint in the draft, like Isaiah Wynn out of Georgia, or even Will Hernandez out of UTEP, but I don't want to go that route. Now we need two safeties. Which brings me to my next point and on to our weekly segment.
Better known as Next Caller.
What up, C3? It's your boy,
and it's coming back.
Jersey, coming in to say my P's and Q's and all that. First and foremost, talk about the loss of Kurt Coleman and Charles Johnson. Both of them got to go. Old, don't need them no more. I think we should trade for Sue Cravens or maybe pick up that Eric Reed kid from 49ers. Free agency. Wide receiver, maybe bring in Dante Moncrief, see what he's got.
That's my guy.
Bring in Aaron Lynch, kick the wheels on him, see what he's got. I think in the draft, we go, what's that kid, Billy Price, first, for our first pick. Put him next to Cleo for a year at guard, move him to center after Cleo's gone, strength up the offensive line. I think it's a good move. Want to know what y'all think? Keep pounding. Michael LC3.
Hi, what's going on, C3 Podcast? The Cat Chronicle Nation. This is Carlton Davis, better known as Carl D. How are you guys doing today? Tony, Mill,
what's up, Carl D?
Special guest if we have them, or if my buddy, the mean Puerto Rican, is back. What's up, Joe? But anyway, I had some guards that I was going to talk about this review for, since we look like we losing nowhere. But I want to talk about something. Marty Hurney. Yep, he is official. He's our GM, and oh boy, I see that he decided to cut Johnson and Coleman. That still doesn't prove a dag-blasted thing to me, Marty. You got to do better than that. You got to cut these aging veterans, cut Stewart, cut these other folks, Adams, cut somebody down. Give us some cap money. We want some, and try to go get some free agents. And I see that. I also heard, Tony, I don't know if y'all will agree with me, but a lot of Cat fans keep talking about free agents. What free agents they want? Well, I'm sorry. Until he proved me wrong with Marty Hurney as our GM, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but Marty Hurney is not going to sign any free agents worth a damn. It's just the history of him. Just look back to it.
Probably true.
As far as
Ken Lucas, the biggest name he's ever done.
Some good players that you want in the draft, second round, third round. Well, once again, until he proved me wrong, the guys that you want probably won't be there for us to draft. We won't be able to draft them because you know why? Because Marty is good at trading up and getting rid of our draft picks. So we might not even have a damn draft pick to get the guys that we all want. So, okay, I think I'm stop 50 for now. You guys tell me what you think about this Hurney. Can he do better? I don't think so. I want him to, like I said, prove me the hell wrong, Hurney. Prove me wrong.
All right. Well, just I do want to comment on that because I do think that Marty Hurney has been forced to learn a few lessons, and that is you have a time where now the owner is on the way out. You don't have that maybe the pressure to just answer and be the sycophant of Jerry Richardson like maybe he was in the past. I think you heard him speak wisely about not sinking too much money into a position. I mean, he learned that firsthand when he was instructed by Jerry Richardson to pay both running backs because of the lockout year and some things. So, but you're right. I think Carl D brings a great point. Is I can't remember a free agent that Marty Hurney brought in. I think Ken Lucas is the only name that I can remember of kind of being an addition. And but he does have a second chance around. You don't see that very often in this league.
No, you don't.
All right, and I think we got Cody Lashney back. I just put the calls together. Like I said before the show, it's been a wild day at work, and so I just rushed it together.
Until next time, keep pounding.
Here comes Cody, I hope.
Hi, this is Carl D again.
Psych? Nope, Carl D again.
The reason why I bent on Marty Hurney, look at what he did yesterday or early this week. How you going to redo Matt Khalil's contract? Really? we could have cut this dude and had some money for next year. But no,
I didn't hear about this.
He had to extend this dude. Once again, that's the Hurney way, always extending people he's giving contracts that he should be giving. And people like Slim J, who has so much faith in Hurney, Slim J, good fucking luck with Hurney with your expectations.
Carl D brought it.
Of Marty Hurney. Okay, that's it. I'm gone.
I don't even know what is he talking about. I missed any news about Khalil.
Yeah, me too.
It involves some sort of like signing bonus or something like that. I don't know. Like something end up being guaranteed. Like they end up paying. Panthers end up paying for it or something like that. I don't even. Freaking
Slim J says fake news. He says you can still cut Matt Khalil. You can't cut Matt Khalil till after this year. I mean, you can. You can cut any player whenever you want.
But it's Matt Khalil, and we're not going to cut him.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think I think we need to be talking about this. Is that he did speak today about how important Ryan Khalil he believed was to this offensive line. So it did not sound like Ryan Khalil was anywhere in the target or the sights of Marty Hurney in potentially freeing up some room for the cap space. But there could be like, hey, this is the time to rework the final year of Khalil's deal. And maybe you could spread that money over 2 years, and you basically say, "Hey, we're going to pay you next year, but we're going to cut you." You know, or something. We're going to move on.
I think Ryan Khalil. I think he'll eventually end up taking a pay cut, just because he's in his final year, and he's like, we're trying to get players on our team to make our team better. I need to do my thing to help my team get better, and that's by taking a pay cut so then we can go out and get the players we want.
Yeah, I'm not big on that, like players actually taking a pay cut, like, because I don't think that's wise. But you can rework the deal so it's cap friendly,
like restructure.
Yeah, exactly. So you still get the same amount of money, maybe even a hair more in some ways, but you don't. It doesn't all come in one thing. These boys they're having fun in the chat room right now. But here, I'm pretty sure that we're here to Cody Lashney, what we've been waiting for.
Better know a potential Panthers draft.
Here it is. Don't mess with the call order, Tony.
Influenced by the loss of Kurt Coleman. Today we are profiling none other than the man himself, the myth, the legend, someone I'm not mad if we trade up to make sure that we grab. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about none other than Derwin James, safety out of Florida State University. This man is a monster. His junior season, he had 84 tackles, 5.5 for loss, 2 interceptions, 11 pass breakups, and a blocked kick. He started 12 games on the year, and he is a monster. This is someone you can put in the box. He can cover tight ends, and he can stop the run. He can even blitz with the best of them. He's almost like a linebacker himself. But to top it all off, you can put him at the free safety position, and he can roam the field and ball hawk with the best of them. He's long. He's strong. He's never had an incident occur off field. I'm a Clemson fan, so trust me, whenever we played Florida State, Derwin James was always the player that you had to look out for. He's the type of guy that he has that Thomas Davis type of attitude. He is a leader from day one, and he fits instantly into our locker room. Now that Kurt Coleman is gone, it's time to invest in the position that we have neglected for a long time. Safety is by far the biggest need right now on the football team, even more so than a wide receiver, and I will hear nothing else. If we move up and give away some picks to get Derwin James, do not be mad, because Derwin James is the man. And honestly, it's another Luke on our team. So, hey, I want to know what you guys have to say, what you have to think. I love you, boys. And until next week, keep pounding.
Cody Lashney bringing it. I think we do have the luxury. This is something that I've kind of wanted the Panthers to do. I know we've sat pat and taken a player that, best player available, and that's kind of forced us with, we took Shaq Thompson. And look, Shaq Thompson, we're big fans of Shaq Thompson on this show. We got a lot to believe in, but the problem with Shaq has not been him. It's just how good Thomas Davis continued to play. And in this league, having 3 linebackers on the field has been difficult. Then the following year, we pick Vernon Butler. And again, is that you can argue that he's the best player on the board. But at the same time, is you're drafting a first-round pick who's a rotational player at that point or as a rookie year. It would be nice to go after a guy who can make a difference, who we really believe in from day one. And it doesn't seem like you're going to be able to get that at 24 unless you're just kind of lucky. That's my feeling on it.
Yeah. To answer what Cody was saying about Derwin James, like I said earlier in the podcast, I don't think James would be available at 24 unless, like I said, unless teams are sort of like backing away from the injury he suffered in 2016. But if he were to miraculously fall to Carolina at 24, that is like a no hesitation move. We go after Derwin James. We have to. I mean, the need at safety right now is very, very crucial. Now I see someone on the chat saying we could maybe trade down. I don't think we need to trade down because, honestly, in my opinion, this is a very, very crucial offseason because I think with the right moves and we are able to fill up just only a few positions, but a few crucial positions, I think we could take that next step and head back to the Super Bowl. Because we have, and I mean, this is not up for discussion. We have to win a ring this year for Thomas Davis and Ryan Coolio. I mean, that is not up for discussion because they are retiring this year or the next year. Davis, Coolio, possibly Peppers if he comes back, and Adams. Those are the 4 guys we need to get a ring for. Now, I know Adams, he's only been here a year, but, I mean, all these guys have not won a ring before. So we need to go out there this upcoming season and go get that ring and win it in Atlanta come February.
Well, I think, too, to speak to that point is that, like, while we want to have that to happen every year, I think another component is that the window is here. Is because you've got Cam Newton, you've got Luke Kuechly, and you've got KK. You've got 3 components, those 3 anchors that your team is built around. And so you aren't in a mode of is that you are on the cusp every year with those 3 players of being an elite team. So I definitely don't think that it's a long-term solution. Now, if there is a way to move back and move up at the same time, I'm okay with that. Whereas you say, all right, we move out of 24, we go back to 31, and we get an additional second or something like that.
Or even a third.
Yeah.
There's a possibility. I heard Cleveland is one. If after their first 2 selections, they could, because they have a whole bunch of draft picks in the second and the third round, they could end up using all those draft picks to trade up back into the first round. There could be a possibility, of us having the first pick in the second round and maybe even a few of the Cleveland Browns picks in the second and third round. So we could end up getting some very solid value in the second and third round.
Yeah, so all good stuff. All right, guys, that's the Cat Calls line. The number's 252-228-5098. We'd like for you to call in, especially as the combine starts to unfold and you get your as Carl D and Slim J continue to do their battle, right? And Cody Lashley will be back, and Tin Tizzy making an appearance. We appreciate that. We appreciate all the help, especially our good friend Lynn. Thank you so much for your support. You can follow her on Twitter at Legacy Lines Lynn, and we got such great support among the people that come to our show and spend like right now an hour and 20 minutes on their Tuesday night and hang with us. So we appreciate that. All right, final cut of the show. And I am not ready, so I'm hoping Joe is. But this is.
I have something, yeah.
All right, cool. This week's, the last segment of our show is the Ice Up Pick of the week, where we pick someone in the world to ice up, to toughen up, to get it together. Everybody is fair game. 12-year-olds in Oklahoma, beware. This is our homage to Steve Smith. So, Joe, who do you got for us this week with the Ice Up Pick?
I wish I could be more specific than this. There's a big gun debate going on. And this is something that happens every so often. There's a big debate about whether or not, certain guns should be legal or whatever. But my wife pointed something out to me tonight on Facebook. There's a movement. She was reading to me about people who are in support of gun-free zones and guns not being allowed in homes with children, that sort of thing. So the movement is for people with gun-free homes to put a red light in their porch light.
That means your mama's hooking.
Right, the red light district. No, this is supposedly to signify that you're a gun-free home. I'm icing anyone up who does this, because that is nothing more than a bright burning beacon for robbers to come and break into your house because you have a red light on your front porch and they know you don't have a weapon in your home.
Joe, you don't got to worry about that one bit. First of all, that movement has 0 legs. Second, nobody who's a robber is going to recognize it. And third, you're going to get knocks on your door and say, is there a working girl here?
Right. There are going to be offers made to your wife.
Yes.
People are going to be propositioning. So, for 2 reasons now, I'm icing up anyone who decides to put a red light on their front porch,
because your mom's a hoe.
You're going to get robbed, and your wife is going to get propositioned. Yeah. So if you are going down this road, you need to ice up and reconsider.
All right, right on. To you, we say ice up. Do you want to jump in on this, Jared?
No comment.
Okay. All right. So my ice up pick this week actually kind of continues on the gun front. And it's going to your senator, Joey, Lindsey Graham, who is let me just say this, is that Lindsey Graham's Southern accent drives me crazy. Like, it is so terrible. I can't stand it. But I've found him to be one of the more reasonable Republicans of the most of as of late. But he somehow, and maybe I haven't looked into it enough, but has continued to show support for the idea that we should arm teachers. And this is the most ridiculous concept to me, because I'm a teacher, dude. And let me tell you something. Now, I don't teach little ones, right? I teach the big kids, but they're even worse. And my idea is this. First, that assumes that teachers have good mental health and that we are stable enough to make those decisions. And that's just not guaranteed just because you're a teacher, right? Is that you never know what's going to happen, like a guy going through a divorce, something like that. Who knows? You know, is that it just seems that I think of that Shameless episode where homeboy, I think it's Carl, is selling guns, and he sells guns to the whole teacher staff at his school, and something goes off and all the teachers pull out their Glocks, dude, and it's like everybody's on edge the whole time. I just feel like this is that as a teacher, we're continued to ask to do a lot. I teach at a college, so we're asked to be instructors, we're asked to be counselors, like professional guidance, like career counselors, academic counselors. We're asked to be digital content experts, where you continue to, like, we have to learn. I mean, obviously we need to learn all of this kind of high-end technology, which is cool for me because, like, I'm into it. But for someone who's like a 48, 50-year-old psychology teacher, I think that's like a big ask on them at sometimes. And then now you're asking these people to be mental health advisors where you spot these problems. And then second, like, to be expert marksmen. I think
you're blowing it way out of proportion.
I'm pushed to the limit, Joe. Teachers don't need to be armed, and we don't need to get paid. We need to get paid for teaching, Joey. No,
I agree with that. I do agree with that, and I think if a teacher wants to be armed, they should have that right. If they want to carry a gun in school for the protection of themselves, they should be able to.
No way. No way.
And if you talk about, we don't know if a teacher is mentally competent, well, part of getting a gun should be a stricter mental issue background check, right? So this should come up.
People's mental health fluctuates, dude. Mental health fluctuates. You can be good and then go through a lot. So anyway, my sub pick is that because I didn't have anything good prepared.
I know. It's okay. You know what? I mean, you have a point. You do have a point. Teachers are asked to do too much already, but I think some teachers are really capable of handling it.
Yeah. All right. That's the C3 podcast. Here we're gonna get on out with our exits. We went long every week. There's nothing to talk about. I say this is gonna be a 48-minute show, and it's an hour and a half later, and even the people in the chat are getting annoyed by it. So, Jared, tell them where they can find you on Twitter and your work, please.
You can find me on Twitter at JRod Giraffe Scout. I also write for snacktimefantasy.com. You can hit us up there. We have some good young talent working for the website. It's only a few guys, but we are working hard every day to make that website one of the most well-known around Twitter. You can also follow me on Instagram at JRod's Football Posts. I do not post on Instagram a lot because I've been dealing with stuff personally and haven't had time to do any posting on Instagram. But
we're old. Don't worry. We're old. We don't use the gram.
No, yeah.
Joe might.
I'm a high schooler.
No.
Instagram whenever I can. So.
I hear you. All right. Thanks, Jared. Joe, glad to have you back. You can follow Joe at Joe Riolano. He'll be back next Tuesday, right, Joe?
That's the plan.
Fantastic. My name's Tony Dunn. This is the C3 Carolina Panthers podcast. You can find our work at CarolinaCatChronicles.com. We encourage you to share the show. Give us a subscribe. Tell a friend. Remember, that's my call to you. Send the podcast to a friend that you know likes the Carolina Panthers. I promise you, if they listen to podcasts and they like the Panthers, they will tolerate us. they will tolerate us. My name's Tony Dunn. I'll see you next Tuesday.